Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. We're only a few days out from the game week 1 deadline now, so here is my current team selection. I'll talk about the players that I think are going to be locked in my team, the other players that I'm considering that aren't currently in my team, so let's get into it. Okay, so the goalkeeper position is one that definitely isn't set in my team. I think if both of these guys were fit and had played in their most recent friendlies, then they both would be locked in my team. However, Dubravka's got a little bit of an injury, Kelleher's got a little bit of an injury. They both should be fine according to their managers, but I don't really want to go into game week 1 without a goalkeeper. That would be a bit of an issue. So my thoughts are I'll probably start with Dubravka regardless because I want him long term anyway. My other thoughts around Kelleher are that there's a couple of players I could go to. So one is Robert Sanchez from Chelsea. At the moment, you'll see in a second, I don't have any Chelsea defenders, and I do think Chelsea have really nice opening fixtures, and I also think that they're going to be pretty good this season, so getting him would be quite nice. Another option is Sells, but I think I'd just prefer Sanchez if I'm going to spend 5 million. I'd rather not spend 5 million, to be honest. So the third option that I could go for is Verbruggen. I think Verbruggen isn't as good an option as Kelleher at 4.5 million. So I think all it would take is, in the press conferences later in the week, for us to hear that one of these is fit and ready, and then I'd probably just go with them. I don't really mind if I have to play Dubravka and bench Kelleher. I'm not really fussed about that. I don't really expect either of them to get that many points in game week 1, so I don't really mind who I play. Obviously, Nottingham Forest is the better fixture than Tottenham. However, I'm not too bothered either way. I don't think either of them are going to get loads of points. I would quite like to have this double up long term. So if we hear any good news in the press conferences, then I'll go with these two. Right, defenders. So Van Dijk and Williams. In terms of players that are kind of locked in my team, I'd say Van Dijk isn't that far off being locked. I do really want to start with him, to be honest. I'm just thinking if I need to get some money to put into the mids and the forwards, then maybe he is an option. But as in an option to take down to a cheaper defender so that I can spend that money elsewhere. Williams, I'm not that set on Williams. If Forest do sign Leif Davis, then Williams does become a worse option. I think what I am slightly more set on is a Forest defender, whoever that may be. Now that could be Murillo. To be honest, it will probably only be Williams, Aina or Murillo. I prefer Murillo to Milenkovic if I'm going to spend 5.5 million. So it's one of those guys. In terms of the 4.5 defenders, well, actually, we'll talk about Esteve first. Esteve or any 4 million option is pretty locked in there. It will probably be him. It could be Reinildo. It could be Goodmanson. There's a couple of guys, but Esteve just seems to be pretty good for defensive contribution points, which I quite like. Shouldn't really need him anyway, but he is likely to be my 4 million option on the bench. Now the two 4.5s here, I've got Van der Ven and I've got Anderson. I really like Anderson kind of individually. I'm just not sure if Van der Ven and Anderson rotate that well. I think Van der Ven actually rotates better with Richards from Palace. So I may go with Van der Ven and Richards. It will be two of those three essentially, Richards, Van der Ven or Anderson. Another option, like I say, is I could take Van Dijk down to a cheaper defender. So I could do Van der Ven, Anderson and Richards and then a Forest defender, which I don't mind doing at all. I just think that Van Dijk is a really nice option. He's got so many routes to points. He's good going forward from corners. He is good for defensive contribution points and he's good for clean sheets. So ideally, I would like to keep him in my team, but if I need funds elsewhere, then he's probably the one that might have to go. Onto the midfield now, and this hasn't changed that much since my last video. Palmer, Salah, Anderson. I can't really see any of these three going anywhere, especially Palmer, Salah. They won't be going anywhere. I really like Palmer to start the season. I think Chelsea are going to do really well, as I mentioned earlier, and I think that he's just kind of back to his better self. The end of last season, he wasn't the best, but at the Club World Cup, he's been good. And in the couple of pre-season games he's played, he's also been good. Salah obviously was pretty non-existent in the Community Shield, but I'm not too worried about that. I mean, pre-season, we only really need to look at minutes and fitness. I'm not really too concerned about form when it comes to pre-season, so I'm fine with him being non-existent in one game. Not a worry there. Anderson is one that I like him, and I think that him or Reinders are the two best 5.5 million options. There may be a world where I do go Reinders instead. There also may be a world where I go both if I drop Wirtz or Bruno down. There also may be a world where Anderson just has to make way because I need funds elsewhere and I can go to Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall's kind of emerged as an option now after the pre-season friendlies at the weekend. He played as a number 10, he created some big chances, he looked really good. Things are a bit muddied as Grealish has now signed for Everton, so we don't quite know where Grealish will play. I mean, Ndiaye just will play football because he's one of their better players. Just not sure where Ndiaye will play. If Ndiaye plays on the left, that leaves the number 10 for Grealish. So that means that Dewsbury Hall has to kind of play a bit deeper or play less minutes. It's a little bit uncertain, but I'm not sure Grealish will actually be ready for the first couple of weeks to start anyway, because he hasn't played any pre-season games. So I do think Dewsbury Hall's fine for the first couple of weeks at least. But Wirtz, I think that Wirtz is actually just really cheap. I think that 8.5 million is underpriced, to be honest. I think he could have been 9.5 quite easily. That would have made it a more difficult decision. I do ideally want to pick him. The problem is there's just so many other good midfielders. If Rodgers is fit, then I quite like picking Rodgers. I don't mind the double up, like I say, of Anderson and Reinders. I'd quite like to have 6 or 7 midfielder slots rather than the forwards, if I'm honest. But that isn't the case, unfortunately. Fernandes is one that he's just got so many routes to points. Yes, I think he probably will be playing a little bit deeper this season because the front three will likely be Cunha and Burmo and Sesko, with Mount playing up there as well a little bit. So I do think that Bruno Fernandes plays a bit deeper. That, however, just does help his defensive contribution. That helps him get them, essentially. So, I mean, at the weekend in the pre-season friendly, he got an assist. He hit the defensive contribution threshold, meaning that he would have walked home with about a 9-pointer just from one assist, because he's great for bonus points as well. So I just think he's got so many routes to points, like I say, that I just think he'll be absolutely fantastic this season. So that's the current midfield 5. I mean, like I say, there is a couple of people that could change. I can't see Salah and Palmer changing, like I say. Anderson probably stays, but yeah, the likes of Reinders, Rodgers, Dewsbury Hall, these guys could all come in. Okay, and onto the forwards. So Ollie Watkins is one that I can't really see myself not going with. He's had a fantastic pre-season. There is a chance he's on penalties, although I'm not sure how likely that is. It would probably be between him and Tielemans, maybe McGinn if McGinn plays, but probably more between Watkins and Tielemans. Aston Villa have been linked with a move for Asensio now, who was obviously on loan at Villa last season. That could be a bit problematic for Watkins, not minutes-wise, but more penalty-wise. If Asensio comes in, then he probably will be the penalty taker. He was last season, Asensio and Rashford. More so Asensio, to be honest. I think if they do bring Asensio in, the front four will probably look like Watkins up top and then Rodgers, Asensio, Gesran long term. Not sure that Gesran gets like loads of starts immediately, and Rodgers could potentially not be fit for game week 1. But I think Watkins minutes wise is absolutely fine. It's just if he's on penalties, then he's basically a no-brainer pick. If he's not on penalties, then it does dampen his appeal a little, but he still should be really good because Villa have unbelievable fixtures. Thiago's one that, I mean, every single other forward apart from Watkins, I'm not that keen on really. The ones that I'm most keen on are obviously Thiago here, Strand Larsen and Mateta are probably the ones, and Fulkrug actually. I do like Fulkrug. Obviously I've got Mark Gueye on the bench, probably not how you pronounce his name, but I've got him as a 4.5 million option. I'm not expecting him to get many minutes. I don't think he'll start many games. I also don't think he's going to be match fit and ready for game week 1, but I won't need him anyway. The only problem is if I bench boost, because game week 2 bench boost could work, but he probably won't be ready to start in game week 2, which is a little bit of an issue. But Thiago, Strand Larsen, Mateta and Fulkrug are ones that I like for this second spot in the first 11. So Thiago just should be the starter now at Brentford, should get good minutes, should potentially be on penalties. He hasn't had the best pre-season. I think he scored 1 goal in pre-season, but he has got good minutes, which is the more important thing. It's been quite a long time since kind of the forward line at Brentford hasn't worked. I mean, ever since Tony was there, they've been good going forward. So I'm hoping that they continue this. They have lost Mbeumo now, obviously. Wissa looks like he might still leave. The Thiago pick does kind of rely on Wissa leaving, because Wissa will just start up top if he stays. So I would like a little bit more confirmation on that before I pick Thiago. But Strand Larsen is another good pick. Wolves are not great going forward, but he should get really good minutes. He should be on penalties as well, probably. And he scored 14 goals last season, which is very good considering he played for Wolves. Obviously, it helped that Cunha was there, but hopefully Arias will be a pretty good creator in that team as well. Wolves just aren't great. Fulkrug has had a really, really good pre-season. So he's one that I'm definitely interested in. He doesn't have penalties. Callum Wilson is there now, so he may take some minutes off Fulkrug. So again, he's not a perfect pick. And then Mateta is just a bit more expensive than these guys. Palace don't have the best fixtures, and the good things about Mateta though is that he should be pretty nailed, because I think Nketiah is actually injured as well. And also Mateta should now just definitely be on penalties. Eze missed his penalty in the Community Shield final. Mateta scored one in the actual game as well. So pretty certain that he's on penalties. He is just a bit more expensive. So where I was mentioning earlier that I might have to take some money from elsewhere, like Anderson down to Dewsbury Hall or Van Dijk down to a cheaper defender, this is what I meant if I want to get Thiago up to Mateta. So the most locked players here are probably Van Dijk, although like I say, he could go if I need funds, a Forest defender, then Palmer, Salah, maybe Anderson and Watkins, and then probably Dubravka and Esteve. They're the most locked ones. The rest are kind of up for grabs still a bit, but the pool of players that I'm now selecting from is a little bit smaller. Pretty much just the ones I've mentioned here. So that is it for this one. If you like the video, do hit like, do subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.